So today we're going to talk about agreements and why something as mundane as agreements is actually really important for the effectiveness of our team and the culture we live in, the business culture. So agreements are everywhere. We use agreements in our daily lives in almost everything, from our agile processes. What is Scrum but a set of agreements? We're going to have a stand-up meeting. The length of our iteration is yay long. This is our definition of done. There are agreements that we do. All right, what time are we going to start work? Are we going to go out for lunch? Where are we going to go? Agreements are part of the daily fabric of our lives. They're nothing new, which is great. It's actually a handle on something very, very effective and we don't have to introduce anything new. So now let's be very clear the type of agreements I'm talking about. I'm talking about spoken agreements, agreements that you and I sit down, we talk very clearly about here's what we're going to do. These are not expectations, hidden agreement. Well, you must do so, or this is the way things are done. These hidden agreements are not the agreements that I'm talking about. So let's talk about these visible agreements. These visible agreements are actually really, really interesting because they enable us to create trust, or if we manage it badly, to kill trust. And they also enable us to tailor our culture. They are, and we'll have a full video on that, they're central to being able to change your culture to whatever you want it to be. Okay? So let's come back to agreements. Agreements, as we said in the trust video, there are two types of trust. There's vulnerability-based trust, which is kind of safety, and there's agreement-based trust, which is when Omar and I agree to do something, how much does Omar trust that I'm actually going to do that? How much can he rely on me? And that's the trust that's really strongly affected by agreements. The thing is, when we make an agreement, we should keep it. We all know that. Fact of life is we don't. Not because we're bad people, this isn't an ethical conversation, but there are many reasons we break our agreements. The most common one is things change. We agree on something else comes up, I have to do it, or I choose to do it, and I miss my agreement or I break my agreement with Omar. And we always let it go. So I break my agreement with Omar. No, Omar doesn't come talk to me and say, Omar, we had an agreement and you did X, Y, and Z. What happens is, normally in everyday life, is Omar stays silent and the trust is broken. Because that's the way we work, most of our business cultures are really places where we don't have a lot of agreement-based trust because we've broken those agreements so much. And the reason we break those agreements is, as I've said, but the reason we don't confront them, confronting broken agreements usually ends in a fight. Usually ends in something that's not successful. So and this is international. This is in the US, in China, in India, in Egypt, everywhere in Europe. And so that's why we don't confront broken agreements. We learned really early that if you confront a broken agreement, it's probably going to go wrong. But it's actually really important because if we don't confront a broken agreement, we don't rebuild that trust. And if we don't have that trust, we'll never have that high-performance team. And now I want you to remember all the videos we've talked about previously about the human dynamics, safety, way of being, so on and so forth. Now, let's assume Omar and I have an agreement and Omar thinks I broke the agreement. I need to confront Omar. I need to do so successfully because I need to build trust. But things are going to go wrong, so I don't confront Omar. But now, let's remember the other things. Now, let's say I work on my safety. I feel safe. I work on my way of being. I see Omar as a person, not as an obstacle. I work on my ownership. I'm coming from ownership. It's not Omar's fault. I'm not in blame. Actually, this is my part to do with it. And I'm very clear on my intent. I'm very clear on what I want. Why did we create this agreement? Well, we created this agreement to do X. Okay? I've worked on these invisible impediments. Okay, now I go talk to Omar. Omar, we had an agreement, and I believe you broke it. Now, let's say Omar reacts negatively. Well, I've worked on my safety. I'm going to be okay. Omar thinks I broke the agreement. I've worked on my safety and so on and so forth. And so I'm going to just go talk to Omar. Omar, I think we had an agreement and you broke it. I feel safe, so even if Omar loses his temper, that's going to be okay. In my conversation with Omar, just the regular talk, it's going to come out that I respect him and I see him as a person. And I'm in ownership. I'm not coming and telling him, you're an idiot, you broke this. I'm saying, hey, I believe you broke the agreement and here's my part to do with it. And I'm very clear on what I want. So I'm opening it up for, hey, remember this agreement we made? We didn't make an agreement for an agreement's sake. We actually made it for this reason that's important to both Omar and me. If you go do that, and because you've worked on these internal impediments, first of all, you're very, very likely to have a successful conversation, reach a new agreement, rebuild the trust, and go again. And that's the power of confronting broken agreements. And that's why we spent so much time on the other videos talking about these invisible human dynamics, because trust is so important. Remember, we want high performance teams, we need this trust. We need the agreement-based trust. Well, we lose the agreement-based trust every time we break an agreement, we don't confront it. Now we have the tools that we can work on so we can confront the broken agreements effectively. So that's agreements. And that's specifically to maintain trust, we need to confront our broken agreements early and often. And that's it.